Welcome to Vulnerable Visibility 101, Week 7. Holy crap, how are we at Week 7 already? Today we're going to be talking about serving through story. So we've been working the last few weeks on client avatar stuff and positioning. And last week we looked at those kind of lower points and that turning point in our story, stages 2 and 3. And today we're going to look at that final stage, stage 4, where we really share how we're serving our people, as well as talk about how to tie it all together. But before we go into that, I would love to start as usual with a little, spend 10 or 15 minutes just kind of checking in, see where you are. And this isn't the opportunity to feel shame for whatever you don't think that you have done right or, not done enough. This isn't that. This is just to be honest about where you are, what's up for you, what's working, and what your celebrations are. So just like what your insights have been the last week or two and what your biggest celebration has been since our last call. So who would like to go first?
I'm still thinking on mine, to be honest.
That's fair. And remember, there's no wrong answers. This is just to see where we're at so we know where to go next.
Yeah, I was starting to get out my little self-flagellation whip.
As we do, yeah.
It's like, oh, what I haven't done.
So easy to focus on that. Yeah.
But I did work on the homework this morning.
And what would your biggest celebration in the last week be?
Pardon?
What would your biggest celebration over your last week?
Gosh, I just did I don't know, for some reason going to the Power meetup was, that was powerful. I don't know, somehow I feel like I'm getting, my what I do statement, I really kind of crafted that and shared it for the first time when I had 30 seconds to speak at Power.
It was
and
awesome.
It felt good, it felt like it was something that was, that caught people's attention and roused curiosity and also told them what made me different,
Yes.
Had a good photo shoot a couple days ago. I think I want to just kind of celebrate my resilience, that I just, I keep falling down and I keep getting up.
Well, as we do. No, that's great. I mean, that is, I think the very first inner asset that we talked about in this program is that resilience. I was just seeing a post in Facebook that was like, fall down 6 times, get up 7, like it's not about not falling down. It's about getting back up again. And so thank you for taking a moment to celebrate that for yourself, because that's huge. We all have these things that sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work, and often they don't work how we think they're going to. And
yeah. And I think, also I'm learning a lot from my mistakes.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Seems like there was one Saturday. I'm like always making mistakes, but I was there was a woman at the Power event who, when we were supposed to say, when you were leading, and we were supposed to say, thank you for telling me what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a different interpretation of the assignment than I did, and that I didn't understand that she was, anyway, I was confused. And I was also really intimidated by her. And there was a little, having just done the micro expression thing, she had a little bit of a sneer. Just,
Mm-hmm.
and, she positions herself as being a shaman, and is very imposing, you know. And so afterwards, I kind of understood. Oh gosh, she was actually telling me what she needed, and I didn't understand that. You know, I was like so taken aback. And so then, you know, when she started to leave or got up, you know, I tapped her on the shoulder, and she kind of stared at me, and and I said, "I'm intimidated."
Good for you for saying that.
And I kept looking at her and really kept trying to open my heart. And then I put my hand on my heart. She put her hand on her heart, and then something shifted, you know. And then as she turned to, and then I smiled, and as she turned to go, she gave me a little wink, you know. So it just felt like I was vulnerable in letting her know that I felt intimidated, but I stood up in my vulnerability, you know.
It's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And as someone who people tell me later that I'm intimidating, I appreciate that interaction, because I'm often like, what do you mean? I'm like the coolest person ever. How am I intimidating? And yet I've definitely had those moments with other people. And I think I know who you're talking about. And I've known her for years, and I've definitely been intimidated by her before. And so I totally get that. And I love how you just honored that, like in the moment, and handled that, and then got this little heart connection with her. And how beautiful. Thank you for letting us witness that and celebrate that with you, because that's big. Because then we don't let it define us. Like if you hadn't have had that moment with her, like how much story would you have end up making?
Right. Yeah,
about
I
yourself
felt
or about her?
Yeah, it's like then I didn't really feel safe. I felt like I lost my ground. You know, it's like, am I not okay? You know, or you know, and you know, I didn't make her wrong for being intimidating. It was like I was intimidated.
Yeah. No. Well done. Thank you. I'm so glad you were there. So Bonnie, we're talking about this once a month event called Power. It's Portland, Oregon Women Entrepreneur Roundhouse or Roundtable.
Oh, that's what's up.
And so, yeah, I was one of the guest speakers at the event. And so that's the exercise that she was talking about.
Wonderful.
Everyone. And I wasn't super clear on the exercise because I didn't even know I was going to do it, because I didn't know that I was going to have time. So it was sort of a little bit of unclarity on my part too. But I'm so glad. And Barbara, I got to witness Barbara's 30 seconds. And yeah, the words that you chose were gold, and your delivery was really great. So it's definitely worth celebrating. Yay! Well done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and put that shame stick aside. There's no place here.
It had metal spikes on it, you know.
As they do. Yes. Yep. As I was typing out, you know, the material for this, I'm like, I need to include some stuff. And so it'll be a little redundant, but you know, in a minute, I'm just going to like take a moment to just honor where we are, wherever that is. So thank you for paving the way. Yay. And as I tell my 15-year-old, it's true. We learn way more from our mistakes than we do from just sliding on through life. And that has to be okay.
One quick comment. There's this crazy blog that I read, and it's related to that. But she was saying that she got, when she was a teenager, she got advice from Cosmo. She was going to have sex with her boyfriend who she really loved, you know, for the first time. And Cosmo said, put Ben Gay on the tip of his penis.
Oh, Ben Gay. Oh.
Talk about burn.
I know, right? That's horrible. Oh my gosh.
And but she applies that idea to like everything. You gotta keep putting Ben Gay on, you know, making mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
And learning from you, you're gonna learn a lot more if you make mistakes.
Yep. Yeah, and like I posted on Facebook last week, it's like, find the balm that soothes you, you know. It's like maybe not literal balm, but like, you know, cuddles, love, music, nature, meditation. Like, what is the thing that really is that soothing balm to you when you're like, I messed up, you know. So yeah, we all make mistakes. And I'll just be transparent. My mistake was not putting more attention. I was so excited about my perforated handouts, And then I completely forgot to tell everyone to tear them apart and fill them out and hand them back to me. And so I spent like $15 on printing and got like 4 forms back. So that was like, I was writing out what's really great and what I did really well. And I thought it was one of my best talks ever. And then I completely bombed the part where I actually get feedback from the room and get to say.
I think the woman next to me filled one out.
Yeah, I got a few. So, but it's just like, that's just one of those, like, well, that stung. And I probably won't forget that next time, because I was in a room full of 50 people and it feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity to get the, the signups that I could have gotten. And, I'm not going to use that shame stick, because it doesn't help. Put those spikes away. So beautiful. Thank you, Barbara. Let's send Barbara some kisses like we did at our workshop. Ready?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Bonnie, how about you? What's going on with you? What are your insight celebrations from last time?
So my insights are, I think I struggled a lot last week energetically. I was so off. But I think the celebration came with the fact that I was aware that it was of my own doing. Like, I was giving myself to certain things and my attention to certain things. And so as I was reflecting over the weekend, I was like, well, that was a choice that I decided to make. And I was, this is not taking me in the direction that I want to go. So I was like, outcome wise, it was on me. But like Barbara, instead of having that shame stick, I was like, okay, so how can I plan for next week? So instead of beating myself up, I was able to actually kind of become aware of it, more mindful of it, and like kind of just focus on the steps that I need to take this week to kind of get further than I did last week. So last week, what I did was I actually went back and I played some of these videos, and
great.
I literally just retook notes. And I just kind of, I don't realize how much wisdom I have, because when I go back and I listen to like what I said, I'm like, wait a second, that came out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I just,
totally.
so I'm like celebrating the fact that like my awareness really isn't in my mind. Like, I really am becoming more aware and more mindful of like where I give my energy. And like, I noticed last week I had like a negative tinge where I wasn't getting good sleep. I wasn't coming to work. I was like not late to work, but not as early as I would normally be, because I didn't sleep well the night before. And then I didn't meal prep properly. And so I wasn't eating as healthy as I wanted to. And so just like those things, or like not having enough time to do like homework and figure out, this and this, and, or like missing the gym and just letting myself slack off. And so for me, my biggest celebration was not beating myself up for not doing said thing, but making a plan to see how I can improve it this week. So I think for me, that was a huge thing. And the fact of the matter is I was able to dedicate like 2 full work days to just doing thoroughly the homework and going back and revising to kind of hopefully like emphasize more the next 2 weeks of homework, because this is where the meat of it is we're learning our origin story. So I feel accomplished, even though last week was extremely energetically challenging for me. Like, I know we're in like some crazy energy, like astrologically. So I'm just trying to like pace myself and not be upset with myself, and just kind of be aware, hey, like there's more to it than just like, me being down in the slumps. Like, energetically, we have a lot going on. So it was cool to process it without being like, oh my gosh, you suck. So,
that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And thanks for sharing and letting us witness that.
Thank you.
Because it is, like Barbara was saying, it's not that we never fall down. It's what do we do in response to that?
Yeah.
Do we let our falling down just keep us on the floor? Or do we really make a plan and set an intention and kind of honor the bigger version of who we are? And take those steps forward. So well done. And I'm so glad that, not only were you able to go back and glean like what you could from this course for, you know, so that you can make the most out of your origin story and all of that, but that you also got to see yourself more clearly.
Oh yeah,
Which is
that was
really cool.
huge. Because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't just watch the coaching, or I didn't just watch the content part. I watched both videos for each lesson, and I think I got through
Nice.
all 5. And then I was just like, dang, I was like, well, and then I think the last one I watched, you said, make sure you watch this back and listen to yourself.
Yeah, because you
And
had,
I was like, dang, I was like, she's not even wrong about that. I was really surprised. I
yeah,
was
'cause
really
sometimes
surprised.
we don't see ourselves that clearly because we're in the moment and we're in the thing and stuff's flying out of our mouth. And then it's like, you
Right.
got some really beautiful, juicy nuggets. And I'm just like, yeah, you need to go back and watch that.
So if well, you know, it's kind of interesting when you step into yourself, but you are not aware of how much you need to step. I don't know how to describe that. Like,
Yeah.
I guess it's just being able to more comfortably and confidently step into myself, because I already told myself this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and now I'm seeing it.
Mhm.
Like, as an visual learner, that just made me feel like I need to push forward in this direction, and, you know, don't give myself time to beat myself up, just pick up where I left off and keep moving forward, kind of thing. So it was cool.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been watching all the Marvel shows with my husband in the evenings, and we're like halfway through season 1 of Luke Cage right now. And one
Good
of
one.
his, oh, it's so good. And one of his mentors passes away, and like the very last thing that he says, like before he dies, because he's like holding him in his hands, you know, and he's like, keep going forward, always forward, you know. And it's just like, I love that, you know, just synchronistic for me too, as I'm getting that message. And that was one of Disney's mantras, was keep moving forward, always forward. So well done in actually putting that sort of abstract concept to real practical use for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
for your work. So yay, let's give
Yeah.
Bonnie some kisses. Ready?
Oh, thank you, baby.
Ooh, so good. Well, I just want to acknowledge you both. You've both, this has just been an honor for me over the last 7 weeks to get to, you know, hold this space with and for you, and to really, you know, I'm providing some tools and some perspectives, but it's you who are hungry for this and that are, you know, really applying this in your life. And even if you just got to the homework this morning, like there are seeds being planted. And so I just want to acknowledge that, you know, whether you've written out all the things or whether you have no things, or whether, you know, wherever you are on that spectrum, like, you are planting seeds that are going to impact you for the rest of your life. Like this, you know, this work, this deep inner work, and looking at story and the elements of story and how to share story in a way that both serves your people and serves your business. You know, it's an amazing skill to have. And so, you know, I just want to acknowledge all the work that both of you have done to get here, and then just kind of remind you that these skills are going to serve you as you share a story about you in a networking event, or when you meet new people who are curious about you and what you do, when you write out a story on social media, if you create an about page on your website, or you share how you started doing this work, when people go, oh, how'd you get into that? You know, it's going to serve you as your work continues to unfold and you change or pivot the focus of your work and then need a new angle for your origin story. You're going to understand these concepts. So it's not just like, oh, I wrote a story and then now I'm back to square one. I don't know what to do. You know what the stages are, you know where to start and how to move through it, and you have these tools. And as both of you shared these, you know, you both are, like, today was such a great example of, like, of you modeling these qualities of resilience and navigating uncertainty, and these inner assets that we started to build on, because those are the foundations that also will continue to, you know, to serve you as you move through life and business, because we're going to get swept off our feet, we're going to fall and tumble, we're going to have, you know, old patterns of wanting to beat ourselves up, and we're going to say no, and we're going to have these new, like, relationships to our inner selves that are going to continue to serve you. And so, you know, no matter where you are in relation to the material specifically, I just want you to know that you both have taken some really big steps that are already, like, shifting the trajectory of your life. You know, as we talked about in the workshop, even just that 1 degree shift can end you up on a completely different fucking continent. And so both of you, just in the last 6-7 weeks, have done such amazing work that even if you walk away next week and don't ever go back and watch the recordings or look at the homework ever again, like, you've planted these seeds. And all that stuff is there for you to go back and review, you know, as long as I'm doing this work, you have access to this program. And so I just want to celebrate both of you, because it's really just beautiful to watch, and it's beautiful to see, you know, what comes out of you and how you're able to apply this stuff in real life situations like you both have been through. So thank you all so much for just being here and being a part of this. And I honor and support you. You're both amazing. Love, love, love.
Heart space.
And so, as I said earlier, today we're going to be finishing up our stories with like the final stage, and then looking at how we tie all those parts together. But first, just a quick refresher on why stories are so important. I know that we talked about that last week, about, you know, the content part of it, how to tell a story that really serves. But I just wanted to kind of go back and go, why stories, and how do they serve us, right? Well, they'll serve you because you get to tell your story. How often do we, especially for our business, do we kind of try to make the service thing or the result, like, that's the head of the business? Like, I've worked with so many leaders who almost try to hide behind their brand and make their brand about the work or the modality or, you know, the solutions they provide, and they're kind of hiding back here. And I think it does them a disservice, because they don't get it's very healing to get to share our story, even in just small little snippets like that, and have people receive it, and have people just be like, wow, you've been through so much. Thanks for sharing that, or whatever their response is. Like that, that's a balm for us, you know, as we were talking about earlier, to get to, it serves us and it serves your people, you know, because it's going to help them to understand more about who you are, where you've come from, how you can help, especially those people who are going to be potential clients. So they'll see what is possible for them, you know, what is possible for their journey. And they can see not only that you're in this amazing place, but that you've been to a relatable place where it's not just they're going to put you on some pedestal and be like, oh, well, I can never do that. You know, I'm not Bonnie. Like, she's so great, but, you know, I'm down here in the muck. Instead, you're going to show them, I've been in the muck. Here's how I moved through the muck. And now I get to serve you and help you through whatever your muck is. And then it serves your business. You know, with a foundational story, everything else can be built more clearly and intentionally, as it all points back to the story. So all the pieces of your marketing, all the pieces of your programs, you know, how you're delivering your content can all point back to your story. And it can just be this like foundational design that everything else is built up on. So that's why the final stage of your story is really all about how you're using what you've gone through to help others. Now, as Barbara alluded to earlier, this can also be the opportunity to share your what do you do statement, where, you know, we're taking that information that we gathered back in the client avatar stuff, and we're actually showing them, like, so I've been through this, and now I help this kind of person with this kind of problem have this kind of result. And they'll even have a greater understanding of what that work is now that they've heard the deeper parts of your story. And so really quick, I just wanted to look at the client avatar template, or no, not the client avatar template, I apologize, your ideal client's journey template, because this, I'm like, I don't know if you can see it, but I can't. Where'd it go? Where are you? There you are. Sorry, I've got too many things up on my page and it was hiding in the back there. So these are the parts that you're going to kind of incorporate into the last section of your story is, you know, kind of where they are now. Like, and now I get to help people who are in this place now have this sort of transformation so that they can get to this place, right? And so that's part of how we're going to incorporate all that work that we did back a few weeks ago around Avatar and their journey, kind of as the little snippet at the end of our own story. And so let me get this one out of here. Excuse me. And then if we look at the, I know that I'm going all template heavy on you, but if we look at the origin story template again, we'll see that, you know, we've got the when things turned around and how you help people now. Excuse me. And then stage 4, it's really, or sorry, when things were low and then when things turned around, that's what we did last week. And then stage 4 is really how you help people now. So you wrap up your story by sharing how you're using your own journey to help others. And like I said earlier, it may include all or part of your what do you do statement and kind of how awesome life is for you. And you want to include how honored or moved you are by your clients and or how fulfilling your work feels. And obviously you want to share authentically so that they can really feel that. This isn't about like, and now I'm so honored. You know, it's really like what are your feelings about the work that you get to do with your client? And so, and just a reminder, as we're putting this all together, this isn't about having the perfect story. This is about starting a conversation. And you're going to practice this and refine it. So the work that we're doing this week isn't about, okay, next week, now come with your perfect story. This is about, you know, between now and next week, have some sort of working origin story that you can start to practice when you meet people, that you can start seeing how it lands. You can start, you know, when you're meeting people and people go, oh gosh, tell me about what you do. And then you can take 2 to 4 minutes, you know, about sharing your story, your origin story, that is so much more connecting than just the what do you do statement. Because they're going to put you in their mind as someone who has been through a thing, not someone who just does a thing. If that makes sense. Okay, stop my screen share again. And so I'll use an example from my own work, especially my just now pivoting away from niche of focusing on coaches and healers dealing with major life challenges. So I would end my story with, you know, and now life is really amazing. I get to see clients, I get to do events. So you see there's a little bit more positioning in there. You know, I've been running a monthly event for 3 years. And, you know, I do all this amazing work with these coaches and leaders. And I'm really honored to get to support these other coaches and healers who are dealing with major life challenges. And I bring to them what worked for me and show them how to have that inner stability and that business sustainability so they can keep giving their best, even if they're at their worst. I'm so grateful to be doing this work. You know? So it shows them like, I've taken this hard time for myself. And now I'm doing this great work that I love. And I give them a little snippet of here's how I'm applying what I learned to my people. And what this does is it helps them self-identify or identify someone that they know. I don't know if I mentioned this back when we were doing client avatar. Did I mention the face test? So the face test is if you describe your what do you do statement to someone, it needs to be clear enough that someone can immediately have a face come to mind of either themselves or someone that they know who might be going through that. It can't be so abstract that they're like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I have no idea what that is. You know, like it has to be something to where if you say like, I help, you know, new moms to lose baby weight, like so that they can still feel like they're strong and beautiful selves. You're going to immediately think like, oh yeah, my friend just had a baby. You know, you've got that face test, like their face comes to mind. And so that's a great test to use. I know where it was. It was in the blog that I wrote about the power of niche that I shared. That's where the face test thing was. I don't think I actually brought it up in one of these calls. But it's a great thing to use as you are talking about your work, especially at the end, is you really want to make it to where they've heard your story and they're either going to relate to themselves and be like, oh my gosh, that's totally where I am. We need to talk. Or they're going to have another face pop up where they go, oh my gosh, that's just like my friend so-and-so. You know, I need to give her your information. And so I would love to give you a moment to just a couple minutes to jot down any ideas that you have that are coming up right now as we're talking about this kind of final stage. What are some really small positioning things you can put in there to kind of highlight how awesome your life is now in relationship to this? And are you going to use your whole what do you do statement? Are you going to use part of it? You know, it's really up to you to get a feel of kind of how you want to end this to really serve them and to have them know like who you are and how you can help. So why don't you just take like maybe 2 minutes. I'm gonna mute myself so I can clear my throat, and I'm gonna set my little timer for 2 minutes, okay? And I'll come back. So just think about it, write down some stuff. I believe in you. About 20 minutes. So, how do you feel about this final stage? Like, is it feeling like you kind of understand it, and then if you sit with it, you'll be able to come up with something? Is it feeling too enigmatic and confusing? Where are you at with it right now?
Yeah, I'm kind of keep shifting, you know, what part of my story I should share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I got a lot of story.
Oh yes, we all do. Yeah.
And what I was working on this morning was when I, you know, what was happening before I started working with you, like right before it. The stuff with my sisters, and then, you know, how you helped me to you know, have more self-appreciation and more resilience, and also help me with the, you know, helping my clients understand the process and on the marketing stuff, and you know, creating a package and how to like kind of or offer, you know. My shoulders won't go down. And I won't exhale.
Breathe.
You know, then, but when we were talking, you know, then there's like the part back when I got, my friends did a career intervention to get me to become a photographer, but I don't know, you know, I mean, I think that the big turnaround yeah, I've been really understanding myself and what I do a lot more since working with you. So I think that's where the heart of it is.
And how does that relate to your client's journey? Is it that you feel that once they work with you, that they're going to be able to understand themselves more clearly and see themselves more clearly?
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, actually.
I mean, I do. I just wanted to make sure you thought that too.
Well, no, I needed to be asked that question because it's really different than what you do, and yet there is and people are often surprised when they start looking into their future and where they want to go, and then when they see the essence of who they are and feel good about putting themselves out there, putting themselves online, and connecting authentically with people.
Yeah, and I think while our how of the work that we do is very different. Obviously, I'm more doing coaching and strategy, and you're doing brand photography, and really helping them to see their brand in a different way. I think the commonality is kind of what you just said, is really reflecting a truer version of who they are back to them, so that they can base their decisions on this truer version of who they are, as opposed to who they thought they were supposed to be, or who they thought they were, and all of that. And I think that, and I appreciate the different kinds of stories, and I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For example, like when I did my talk yesterday, I didn't share my vulnerable origin story because I only had so much time, and she had already read my bio. And so I chose to share a story that related to the material I was teaching. That's what's so great about understanding these stages is, of course, we want to craft this origin story that helps to attract clients, but then we can use that in a bunch of different ways. I was going to share this example, but I think it goes with what you're saying, Barbara. So I have a client that I'm working with right now, and she's a health coach, but she also does yogas and Pilates, and she also supports people with like spiritual, like meditation and Buddhism. And part of her health coaching is doTERRA essential oils. And so she actually crafted 3 different origin stories. One for if she thinks that the person is going to be interested in like health coaching and oils. One for if she thinks that person is probably going to be more interested in signing up for her yoga and Pilates classes. And then one for those people that she thinks she's going to actually do some more of the spiritual coaching with them. And she was able to use this 4-stage format to help guide her on what to say for each one, and both for conversation, like, if I'm in conversation and I'm at a yoga Pilates class and someone is wanting to sign up for more classes with me, obviously I'm going to use that one, and so she still has this broader niche of, helping people through mind-body connection, and mind-body practices. But depending on what she's trying to accomplish in that conversation, she will choose a different story to share. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about next week in our next steps, is we're going to be talking more about, okay, now that you have this origin story, like how do you apply it, and where do you apply it, and what do you do with it, and how can you just use story in general to support the growing of your business. And so I think whenever you're looking at what points to include, you definitely want to look at A, what am I trying to accomplish with this story? And B, how can I, find the parts of my story that show, that match my client avatar's journey that they're wanting to take. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Great questions. And thanks for letting us poke around in there with you.
Yeah.
How about you, Bonnie? What's coming up for you as we're looking at this final piece?
For me, like, I guess kind of much like Barbara, I'm like, I know I have a lot that kind of contributes to why I started my journey and how that journey came about and how to use it without going too far into detail. But like overall, I think how I want to end my origin story is to show the reason why I'm so passionate about helping another person navigate through the difficulties of it, because it's not an easy process. And to be vulnerable and say, I understand this is not an easy process, but the empowerment that comes with it and the self-control that you gain because of it is really what you're seeking, kind of thing, but in your own particular way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I want to leave it, just because I know that that is like a powerful thing, because when people feel like they can take some of their own control back, they want it. They want to know, how do I do that? And as much as it is geared towards weight loss, they're getting so much more.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And that's, again, perfect segue into the next part I was going to share is, one of the ways that you can transition from stage 3 into stage 4 is with, and that's why I'm so passionate about So you shared that, I do all this awesome work, but I went through this really hard time. This is what got me through. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping other people to get through this thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or for like my Star Spiritual Sundays, I went into metaphysical spirituality, and then I was shamed for having chronic illness and family estrangement. And so I walked away from that community and started, really embracing my inner activist and really owning all the parts of me while taking the spiritual parts that really helped me on my journey. And that's why I'm so passionate about speaking out about the harm that the Love and Light Only community can have on people, and how to still apply these spiritual principles in our lives in a way that not only transforms our life, but transforms the planet. And so, yeah, I think that's a perfect way to really frame that last section, because it's like, that's why I love the thing that I do, because I've already been through it and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And I want to help other people with that.
I think about it too, is like, I think excitement and joy are contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that when someone feels like you're going through all this hefty information, and then all of a sudden you have this big burst, like, I am ready to help you. Like, when people will remember that feeling more than they'll remember an article that they read, they'll remember tidbits, but they will also remember how it made them feel. Absolutely. And that's just kind of how I feel like, I think that would be a great ending, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great question to be asking yourself too. Like I was telling Barbara, you want to ask yourself the questions like, what am I trying to accomplish? What is the journey that my client has taken that I want to show that I have taken a similar journey? And also, how do I want them to feel at the end of my story?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question to be asking. It's like, where do I want to leave them at the end of the story? Do I want to leave them in awe? Do I want to leave them in joy and inspiration? Do I want to leave them hopeful or excited? And you can get so intentional about, and those kinds of questions can help guide us as to, okay, well, what parts of my story invoke that sense of joy, or invoke that sense of gratitude, or invoke that sense of awe and inspiration. Not just I'm inspired by you, but I'm inspired by the possibilities for me.
Yeah.
So great awareness and questions to be asking.
Thank
you.
I
wanted to share one of the stories that I helped this health coach with. And again, this is a super short one because this was more for her to have at networking events or bring into conversation. And obviously, this is like an accordion. If we need it to be an about page, we can make each sentence into a paragraph. If we're doing a speaking event and we have 4 minutes for a story, that's going to change, how much we tell if we only have 90 seconds for a story. But this is a super short version just to show you kind of how we blended all the things together. I'm just going to read through this really quick. So she said, I have always had an interest in natural health and wellness and have been educating myself in these fields for over 20 years. Positioning, right? That is why it was so disturbing when I turned 40 and started experiencing hormonal changes and losing my hair. Through this, I realized that my body was on toxic overload, and I decided to assist my body in self-healing through natural solutions. A little bit of a turning point there. That led me on a wellness journey to find doTERRA essential oils. Now, I provide my clients effective, natural solutions using plant medicine that changes people's relationships to their bodies and minds. You see how just there was like 4 or 5 sentences there. And yet we got to go on this journey with her of like, okay, she's been doing this for 20 years. She had this really horrible thing that led her down this other path. Now she found something that worked for her, that helped her on her journey. And now here's what she's providing for her people. So that's just an example of a short way that you can move through that. And so this week's homework is to work on that final stage, play around with what you want to say there. And I think based on what came up today, I think I'm actually going to include in that to ask yourself those 3 questions as you're looking at crafting this story. So it's like part A of homework is come up with the final stage. And then part B of the homework is to start weaving it all together. I'll be offering some coaching specifically on your stories next week, even during the content section. So this isn't about having it perfect. This isn't about having only one, like you can have several drafts, but just to have some sort of rough draft and start to work with this. And I think I'm going to include asking yourself those questions of, what am I trying to accomplish with this story? How can I, what is the path that my potential client has taken, and how can I use that to choose what parts to include in the story? And then 3, how do I want them to feel when I finish the story? And so again, this is about having something to experiment with. This isn't about creating the perfect thing. Because the truth is there is no perfect thing, and it's going to be different every time it comes out of your mouth. And you're both intuitive beings, and you might intuit as you're talking to someone to share a part of your story you've never shared before, or to hold back another part. Like, you really want to let yourself be in the moment. This isn't about becoming rote and like a robot. I'm going to say these exact words every time, but it's going to give you a guide so that you at least know the path you're going to take, because otherwise we get all rambly and stumbly and we lose people, so this is about having a guide to support you through this sharing of your story. And it's also going to support you as, like I said, you're creating your about page or your bio, or you're sharing a story on social media to connect people with you. And we'll talk more next week about applications of your stories. But for now, we're just going to work on wrapping up this little tail end of the story, kind of weaving it all together, remembering that the purpose is to serve you by sharing, to serve your people through inspiration and possibility, and to serve your business by being really clear and having this foundation that everything else can be built upon. Okay. How does that sound?
Good, but intimidating.
Yes. I know, right? Yeah. Well, exactly. And that's why I keep reminding you, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you'll learn so much more by going out and experimenting with this, by going out and meeting people at networking events and sharing it, by sharing it with people and seeing what their reactions are, seeing what parts get people leaning in and what parts people are checking their phone to see if they need to walk away, like to just really hold it lightly and be like, okay, I've got this thing. Let's go try it out and see what works. And so for now, we're just building that muscle of knowing what to include in our stories. And then it really, you're going to refine it the more you use it and the more you see like what really grabs people's attention. What are they, I'll be surprised sometimes by people taking out one little part of what I said, and that's the question that they ask about. It's like, oh, that's fascinating. What is it about that one part that really strikes people? So it's just about one of my coaches years ago, when I was really high in perfectionist mode in my business, and I was trying so hard to make everything perfect so that it would work great. And it was exhausting and it was hard, and I was using the shame stick a lot. And he said, treat everything in business like a prototype. It's a prototype. You're putting this thing together and you're going to try it out, and then you're going to get data on what's working and what's not working. And then you're going to come back to the drawing board, and then you're going to create a new prototype. You're going to go out and try it out. Like, there is never a finished product, because we're always changing and growing. The industry is always changing and growing, and so this is about finding a prototype that serves you right now, while recognizing that it's always going to be a prototype, that there are no perfect answers. This isn't a transaction with the universe. If I create the perfect story, I will get all the clients. It's like this. That's not how this works. There's much more fluidity and flexibility and flow in the reality of building a business. And so this is just having another tool in your toolbox that's going to support you on your business growth and client attraction journey.
I was just going to say, how do you become, or it's being aware of that every part of the process needs to be flexible.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's something I've learned as a trend over the last, honestly, to be fair, when I found your course online,
mm-hmm.
I have a consistent message from the universe that obviously be diligent, but be flexible.
Absolutely. I love that.
So
that's a great combo, and good on you for listening.
Yeah.
It's great how the universe uses us to send messages to others. So I'm honored to be a conduit for that message that you needed to hear.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. You're so welcome. Thank you both. This is so great. I can't believe next week's going to be our final content and coaching week. But I know that we'll end strong, and it's going to be great. And obviously, you know where to find me. And I'm excited to get to support you some more. So this concludes our week 7 content section. We'll get started with coaching in just a minute.